Football coverage today brought to you by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. Got people waiting patiently to weigh in on yesterday's dud of a deadline. What do you think of the team now, and what do you think of Brad Holmes today? Some ticket text before we hit the phones. Price was too high, blah, 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 blah. Eye test tells me we have no chance to win the Super Bowl. Another one says the Lions will not win the Super Bowl, period. Jansen says the team didn't make the moves the fans wanted. It's not about want, it's need. This is another unserious Detroit front office.
No, there's clearly need. I'm not saying there wasn't need. I said it last week before Mahogany, and you were like, oh, no, it's not a need. And
you said it before it was cool.
Yeah, it was certainly a need. The question is, and there's a reason why, and Dan said it yesterday, like, you know, those trades are hard to make because teams value their offensive linemen, even if they're a bad team.
But you know what that sounds like?
So, okay, I know that Bitonio was the guy that we had talked about yesterday. Is there a world where a team, for a guy that's been a 7-time Pro Bowler, and he has meant a lot to them, that says, you know what, we're not going to trade you because you asked us not to? Matthew Stafford came into the Lions and said, I would like a trade.
Fine. This was never all about one player. They have another guard,
Agreed.
Wyatt Teller. Zeitler was another option, and there's no 10-year allegiance with Tennessee and
Correct.
Zeitler.
I agree with that.
And beyond that, there was an offensive lineman move that played left guard all of last year and this year has a bit of a mean streak. Is he a polished product? No, but he went for the lint in your pocket. Like there was an offensive lineman traded this year. When I hear it's hard to add to the offensive line, I agree. But the way it sounds to me is, it's hard to win a Super Bowl. You're a great general manager. Was I wrong to place faith in you? Last year, you were able to spring and add at the deadline. This year, sorry, guys. Good luck. He let his team down yesterday. It's too hard.
Oh, I don't.
That's what the ticket texters are saying. Not Brad, but that's
okay.
ticket texters saying
That's
it's
fine.
too hard to add offensive linemen. It's hard to win a Super Bowl.
Right. I'm disappointed, but I also know that this is still a team that can compete, maybe not to win a Super Bowl, but to get to a Super Bowl.
And again, I'm not canceling the season. Like, it just made it harder on themselves. Ticket texter says Holmes pulled a Scott Harris. How did that work out for the Tigers? Feels like we lost twice this week, boys. Lost to Minnesota, then lost the deadline. Super Bowl could still happen. These guys work incredibly hard, but the odds seem astronomical after this week. Let's get to the phones.
Your backs might be up against the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to Brad. You're on 97.1.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hey, at first, of course, the first emotional reaction is, what the heck is going on? Why did you do this? And then when you take emotion out of the situation, I mean, Jim, I think we've got to understand that Brad Holmes, and honestly, to a certain extent, John, will forget more football than we ever know. I mean, I think we're talking about us and staff, and we're fans here, okay? But let's break down each one. Bitonio, like you just mentioned, okay, grew up there, developed there. Maybe the Lions had a 5th-round grade on him, and Cleveland wanted a 4, and Detroit wasn't going to budge. That's fine. Zeitler, they've got the number 1 pick there in Cam Ward. They take Zeitler out of the equation, Cam Ward could get killed. Okay, and they're not going to do that. I understand you want the guy, that went for the lint in the pocket. All fair and well. However, maybe they're saying that Azawike or whatever his name is, they like him better. He's been in the system. He knows. Okay? But if this doesn't work out, I'll tell you what, and I think everybody's right, the fans are right on this one. Brad Holmes is going to have to get up in front of that podium and explain why that team had no identity this year and why that team lost. So let's let this play out. I know it's not what the fans want. The fans want the G.I. Joe with a kung fu grip, and they think they're getting Army Mike. But let's just see how this plays out. And then at the end, man, you can bullet hole Holmes all you want because I'll be the first one calling to say yes.
Well, and on the flip side of things, I hope they're playing this at the parade in a form of receipts. Right. I hope they take every phone call that rips him and plays it as receipts at the parade this year. I really do. I just don't think they're going to get the chance to do so.
Well, so now, I mean, the onus is all on Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, and that staff is, hey, go out there and prove it. Prove it.
I raised the stakes yesterday when I said I would have given up a 2nd-round pick for Bitonio. you balked initially, Jim, but then I was like, well, what if he doesn't make a move? Would he have done it? And you said yes. I still want to know if that was offered, and it probably wasn't. And was it too high? Yeah, but guess what? I would have included a second-round pick plus Rakestraw, Pascal, and Onwuzurike.
I just have
because
a hard time
that's what
with
second-round picks are for the Detroit Lions, okay?
There's Brian Branch, there's Sam Laporta.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
and those are good picks, too. But you know what?
You just can't just cherry-pick all the ones that didn't work out.
But to be fair, more don't than do, and including the third round.
Well, that's the NFL draft.
Right, so then don't be married to him. I got Howie Roseman saying, I'm not going to be afraid to take risks. I'm not going to live with regret. That's a man who's built multiple Super Bowl teams. That's who the Lions are competing with. You know, I mean, that's from the mouth of a guy who's actually done it versus a guy who hopes to do it in Brad Holmes.
It is very much like Scott Harris, like the ticket texter said. I think Brad's getting a little bit of a pass because people like Brad and people don't like Scott. That's my unbiased opinion about this. It's because the Lions' approach to how they do things, the city loves the grit, the culture. Dan Campbell's the face of this town right now, and I think they get the benefit of the doubt versus the Tigers, who did the same damn thing, but you don't like the smart ass in the room in Scott Harris. That's exactly how I feel about this. It's the same, but we like those guys because they come across image-wise more friendly. Scott Harris comes across as the smartest guy in the room.
Let's get to Quan in Detroit. Quan, you're on 97.1.
Good morning, everyone. How you guys doing?
Good morning, Quan. How are you?
So, before I even go into my point, I want to say this about Brad Holmes. You cannot be disappointed in something you already expect. And I knew he was not going to make a deal. I kept looking at my ESPN app, kept going to Google, just kept trying to see what was going to happen with the Lions in the trade deadline. Nothing didn't happen. And I kind of already expected that. So I wasn't disappointed, but I'm definitely sick because I feel like when you hear the Eagles are in conversation with the Browns to get Myles Garrett, and you see a guy like Sauce Gardner available, a hometown kid, why not take a chance and swing? I know it sounds outrageous, but he could really solidify this defense of cornerbacks. Like, you bring a guy like Sauce Gardner over here, but I'm just throwing that out there because, you know, when you hear stuff like that, I know the contract is huge, but you hear the Eagles trying to get Myles Garrett, they trying to figure something out. So just try to figure something out. And I just feel like he didn't swing for a home run. Last year he did a double with getting
Za'Darius.
Yeah, that was a double. This year he had an opportunity to at least get a home run. I think that would have been a home run hit, but.
Well, and I think, Quan, we're using the baseball analogy here. Brad Holmes is operating in a 3-0 count. He has done such a great job as the general manager of the Detroit Lions. He's at a 3-0 count. Well, what do you do in a 3-0 count? You can be patient and draw a walk, or
swing for the fences.
Something he hasn't done.
Like I said, I'm disappointed they didn't do anything. And was it an opportunity? Is it a missed opportunity? Sure.
Yeah. 248-539-9797. We'll play a little of Howie Roseman audio just for the contrast in the next hour here. We'll take more of your phone calls and more of your thoughts. How do you feel about Brad Holmes? How do you feel about this football team in their pursuit of a Super Bowl? And Lions tickets. Tell you how to win them next, 97.1.